The decision to change defensive coordinators was based on our lack of ability to stop the run.
How many coordinators can Mac Brown throw under the bus?
To the 10, to the 5, touchdown Brigham Young.
They're just soft. There's this circus that is Texas football right now.
Everybody should understand, we go back to work. This isn't the first time I've had things said about me, and won't be the last.
100% Mac Brown's fault and responsibility. I actually was getting nauseous towards the end of the game.
Everybody understands you don't turn on a computer, you don't turn on TV, and you don't read a newspaper after a loss at Texas. The only way you can change the way things are outside is win.
We promised you a week ago if they lost to BYU, the avalanche of negativity would return, and it certainly has. Look at the hideous numbers there. The first year that Manny Diaz ran the defense in 2011, Longhorns led the league in rush defense. But if you look back at last year, it was one of the most negatively affected stats around the entire country, hurting its team's chance of winning. The rush defense was awful last year. I don't even know what adjectives you use against BYU. You see that top line there? 271 yards after contact. Although contact in the traditional football sense, I'm not sure you could describe the gentle caressing of the BYU ball carriers as actual contact by that defense. I mean, confusion, lack of effort. Mac Brown, for the first time in 29 years, fired an assistant in the middle of the season. Greg Robinson, who was a consultant there, brought back in. He was successful as the D coordinator in the early 2000s, but then he struggled at Syracuse and Michigan. Here's Mac Brown with Kaylee Hartung.
Coach Brown, with the coaching changes this week, how have things been different for your defense under Greg Robinson at practice?
Well, we're lucky that Greg had worked with our staff in the past. He has a great relationship with Dwayne Akina, and we also hired him July 1st, so he watched every play in practice, and he had an idea of what we were doing and really an idea of personnel. So as disappointed as some of the guys were that Coach Diaz wasn't here on Sunday when they showed up, they've really embraced Greg. He's had a tremendous week's practice, and he'll have them ready to go.
You've said Case McCoy will get the start at quarterback. What led you to that decision? David
Ash will not play. He will hopefully rejoin our team on Sunday and get ready for next week. But Case has had a good week, and we'll have Tyrone Swoops ready as well.
Can you give us any details on David's condition?
No, that's the medical staff, but it was reported last week that he had a head injury and a shoulder injury, and those have just led to him not being able to play this weekend.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Chris.
All right, thanks to Jay Johnson. The playmaker for Texas is also out of this ball game. You know, Mac Brown, with a couple good years, he could close in on Darrell Royal's all-time record for wins as a Texas head coach. His contract runs through 2020. But as we bring in Paul Feinbaum now for his take on this, there are many who say that his vision for the program is no longer 2020. Paul, what do you make of this mess right now?
Well, I think he is a beloved figure in college football outside of College Station, Texas. I think he has a chance. He has to beat Ole Miss tonight, and obviously, Chris, he has to end the three-game losing streak. But I think the question I have is, how did Texas and how did Mac Brown lose their mojo? 3 years ago, they owned college football. They were about to hijack the entire Big 12 after the Pac-12, and they eventually formed their own network. But they lost it all, and I'm trying to figure that out. And then they were arrogant. They were arrogant when President Lofton took this great school to the Southeastern Conference. They were arrogant when they canceled the long-term series with A&M. And how did that work out? Well, look who is the it school in the state of Texas right now. Look who has the best coach. Look who has the most exciting player in college football. And this afternoon, this program can upset Alabama and dethrone the two-time national champion. Meanwhile, in Austin, 119 miles away, they play Ole Miss tonight. They have to beat the Rebels to save Mac Brown's career. Didn't work out very well.
Yeah, Paul, that may be an overstatement in my opinion. I mean, DeLoss Dodge, the athletic director, by the way, they refuted reports yesterday he would resign at the end of the season. He's been a strong supporter of Mac Brown, who continues to say that he will step out in his time. He doesn't want to step out when the program is down. And as Paul mentioned, it's down right now. 100% of the blame, you know, the callers are going to put it on the head coach. Where is the blame? What's going on?
Well, first, Mac Brown set a precedent from around 2001 to 2009. They were one of the elite programs in all of college football. 9 years, they only had 16 losses in that span. Then you go from 2010 to where we are today, you're talking about 17 losses. So just over a little over 3 years. He hasn't forgotten how to coach. It's not as if Mac Brown all of a sudden doesn't know how to coach football. He does know how to coach football. I think at some point I like to point the finger to the players. When they had Vince Young and they had Colt McCoy, you could argue that those are the two best leaders in the history of Texas football's program. They went back-to-back at quarterback, and those are their glory years. Who's been the leader on this football team since Colt McCoy left in 2009? Because if there is a leader, when I watch Texas, I haven't seen it. Right. And at some point, it's easy to point the finger and call on the shows and say Mac Brown's terrible. But if Mac Brown's failed anywhere, it's he's not recruiting the same kind of Texas high school football players with the umph and the leadership and the chip on their shoulder.
Doesn't the staff bring in the players?
But it's not just talent, because they have talent. Yeah. It's a chip. They don't play with a chip on their shoulder. This team was ridiculed for 9 months. They show up disinterested against BYU.
Well, you talk about Mac, and I think that, you know, how many VPs can a CEO throw under the bus before he has to take responsibility for the company failing? And that's the situation that's in Austin right now. I mean, Mac is the CEO of that company, and he throws this coordinator under the bus, this coordinator. They keep changing coordinators every year, and nothing is fixed. So in my opinion, at some point, Mac Brown must take responsibility for his own actions, for his own hirings. Kirk said they're not bringing in the right players. They have top 5, top 10 recruiting classes every year. Once you get these players on campus, it's up to you as a coaching staff to indoctrinate them into your culture. You have to make them understand what Longhorn football is all about. The players, they don't come in with that mentality. They don't do it anywhere in the country. It's up to the coaching staff to do that. But it's very hard to get that message across when you're constantly changing coordinators and coaches, because there's no consistency. Right now, they suffer from a lack of identity. They don't know who they are.
Well, look, Mac Brown is the president of the American Football Coaches Association, and he didn't want to replace a key defensive member during the season, but it was a poor example for all the coaches. Now, the change was necessary, and doing nothing was even worse. Yeah. He had to change, so he had to do the change, and I think it's going to work.
So a bad example, but he had to do it.
Bad example, but he had to do it.
I think that Brown, in bringing in Robinson, is hoping that by the Big 12 season, and let's face it, that's a winnable league. Yeah. They're not in the SEC. That's a winnable league. Will it pay dividends against Ole Miss and Bo Wallace? I mean, they have Barry Brunetti. They have a running quarterback at Ole Miss, too. They have a change of pace guy. They have some weapons. And they gave up, what, 66 to Texas a year ago? So they want some payback on Austin. And they're ranked, and they smell blood. What happens tonight?
Well, you know, 2 weeks ago, we were in Clemson. I pointed at this game as being a very pivotal game for Ole Miss. I think that they have a chance to win this game. And now, without David Ash in the ball game, I like Ole Miss. They're young. They're dynamic. They're explosive on offense. I think they're going to have a lot of confidence coming to this game in Austin. I like Ole Miss to beat Texas.
What a tough week for Greg Robinson to have to come in and get ready for Hugh Freeze. You're talking about tempo. You're talking about a variety of spread looks. There's a lot to try to get ready for any defensive coach, let alone a guy that just got summoned in on Sunday, and he's got 6 days to try to go up against this Bo Wallace attack. I like Ole Miss, too. I think Ole Miss and their tempo will give Texas fits.
Double, not so fast, you and the guy over there. Let me tell you, Texas will win this game because it's at home. They have better players. And listen, a sense of urgency is now in every person in that program since the change is gone.
I think they don't want to go on the road. Is it a good thing to be playing at home if you're
yes.
Go ahead, say that again. Let LC say that again.
A sense of urgency is there for everybody that's still in the program.
You don't think there was a sense of urgency? This program has been torn apart in the offseason. For 8 months, they were made fun of. Everybody questioned. This isn't new for Texas. All of a sudden now, wow, we're really mad. Now they fired Manny Diaz. Yeah. They've been, there's been plenty of motivation for 8 months, and they showed up like, okay. What time's the game over?
Time will
You think they'll show up today?
I think they show up and beat Ole Miss and double not so fast again. Because
now they really mean it.
Hey, they mean it.
They really mad now.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see if things don't go well early.
We'll see.
Yeah. How long that home field advantage is an advantage.
I think it is.
It'd be a disadvantage sometimes when things aren't going.
Ole Miss can do more than recruit, by the way. They can play football.
Oh, exactly. You know the old saying, why did you fire the coach? Because you can't fire the players.
That's right.
College football. If you could, there'd have been pink slips all over the
No doubt about that.
Some guys need to be on partial scholarship after that BYU game.
A lot of pink slips under the doors there.